There we go, recording in progress. Hello, everyone. I am Chris Allaun, and this is the first of my new sort of project called Author on Author. And what it is basically me interviewing another author. And the cool thing is, in turn, that same author interviews Mickey at the same time. So we're hanging out, having drinks, cocktails, having fun. It's a little bit different than my other show, Mystic Chat, in the sense of it's not that serious, but we are going to talk about magic and fun and all types of stuff. Micheal, do you want to say hi and introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. Micheal Herkes here. If you're unfamiliar with me, I am the author of several books on witchcraft, and I just had a brand new book come out, Moon Spells for Beginners, right around the same time as Chris's new book. So we thought this would be a great opportunity to kind of talk a little bit about our books and our writing processes and all that fun stuff. So I'm excited to be here. Love Chris. He lives down the street. So even though we could be together, we're like trying to, we got stuff to do later. So we're doing it from a distance.
Well, see, that's the thing. And one of the things I wanted to do is give people both a magical insight, but a little bit more of a personal thing and a professional thing about who we are and why we do the witchcraft and magic and spirituality that we do. So I am recording a podcast right after this for something else, and Micheal's doing something else,
and I'm going to a movie I'm going to see Death Becomes Her down the street at a local bar because they're doing it outside. So that'll be fun.
Oh, that will be fun. So the first thing I want to say is just go ahead and get the ball rolling, and let's talk about moon spells a little bit. So this is your fifth book?
This is my fifth book. Yeah, my fifth.
Oh my God! I just realized something. You have 5 and I have 5.
We're both at 5, baby.
Oh my God!
Yeah. So yeah, this is my latest book, Moon Spells for Beginners. I had previously written a book called The Complete Book of Moon Spells, and of course, during the editing process, a lot of things got cut from it. It's been very, very successful. People have really, really loved the book, but it was also really anchored in kind of how I do things. And being the glam witch and being someone who's very into aesthetic, I use a lot of ingredients and I use a lot of things that are maybe a little bit rarer. So I was offered an opportunity to kind of reshape it and kind of come up with this like prequel version of it for beginners. So brand spanking new, maybe you've never even heard about witchcraft, just to kind of have a better understanding of how the moon is magical and what it can do in our lives. So I got to recycle some stuff that got cut, of course, but also really, really strip it down and make it a lot more accessible rather than the first book that I did for I think modern witches in general, who are just kind of always on the go and maybe don't have albino peacock feathers hanging out in their house or some other very obscure ingredients that I tend to use and incorporate in my craft. So I really love this book. I love how it turned out. I think that the illustrations it's just a really, really pretty book. And yeah, that's it in a nutshell.
So I know everything about the book, your favorite part about the book, but if you had to choose one thing, what's your favorite thing about the book this time?
Oh gosh.
I know, right?
I would say that I think what I like about both of my moon books is that they really deviate from what other witches, how they typically use the moon. I mean, most witches kind of use it as you have the full and you have the new, and then you have the waxing, which brings stuff to you, and the waning that pushes things away. But I kind of look at moon magic as more of the way of doing moon mapping, which is really kind of tracking all of the phases of the moon and adding looking at it from an energetic perspective of all of the different 8 phases. So I really liked. I would say my favorite part of the book is that, and that it adds a different element to how to do moon magic, because that's not really something that I've at least come across out there in other books.
That's really, really cool. And I like that it's a prequel, and I like that you're doing something new. So, like, how do they know it's a prequel though? Like, how would they know?
I mean, I'm just calling it a prequel. Like in my head, it's a prequel. Because I feel like, to anybody that has read my other books and they really, really liked it, they have to understand that pretty much all of my books, I try to make it intermediate. So it's good for newbies, it's good for beginners. But this is a straight up beginner's book. So that's why I'm saying it's more of a prequel, because it's going to have a lot more of that very beginner element stuff to it. But even as an experienced witch who's been practicing for over 20 years at this point, I even like beginner books. But I know sometimes people can get put off by that word. But I like it because I love seeing the new flavors of what people are putting into these beginning, ideas, and how they're teaching the new generation of things. So I have always liked the beginner books. So when it was decided on that the title would be Moon Spells for Beginners, I just figured as a whole, it's a great prequel. It's a great original source to go to then the other book that I wrote on moon spells, and use that as more of the advanced type of working with moon spells, because there's more ingredients involved, there's less instruction on things, there's a little bit more, here's the layout, but you might want to try this, here are some other considerations for you. So I included that in the first one that I did, and this one's a little bit more meditations, teas, lighter things. It's magic light.
I love it. I love it. I love it. It's a good book. I read it. I went through it. I like it. It's also fun. I like the fun. So one of the things that a friend of mine and colleague and teacher, to be honest, we were talking about a long time ago. When you are doing the crowd for 20, 30, and in some cases 40 years. I have not been doing it for 40 years. I'm not that old. I've been doing it for about 25. But anyway, no, actually about almost 30, because I started in 1992. I was 17. Shh, don't tell people. But you don't use the tools and the candles and the sachets and the crystals anymore. So one of my favorite things about teaching, one of my favorite things about working with brand new people is playing with the tools, playing with the ingredients.
Yeah, going back and yes, I know what you're trying to say.
Yeah,
it is interesting because I think you bring up a good point, because in every one of my books, there has been a section that talks about the tools. And as an author, it does get a little like, oh, I'm so sick and tired of writing about the same thing over and over and over again. Yeah. But at the same time, I have to understand that, I've worked with them. I've done them. The only tool that I really, really still use in pretty much like the majority of my workings is an athame, is because I just love it and it's gorgeous and it makes me feel like I'm the glam witch.
And you can stab people with it.
And I can stab people with it. No, but I'm not really, I did have a really cool interview. Someone asked me recently, it was like, if you were going to choose just three ingredients for any spell, like as your go-to that you would use for the rest of your life, what would they be? And I said an outfit, a pendant, and a candle. Because candles are really, they are a tool that you use to manifest things. And those I definitely always use. But the other like pentagrams and chalice and all of those things, they're just kind of not. The bells and the brooms and everything, it just, at certain points you kind of advance from that. So I really appreciate what you're saying. And it is kind of fun going back and kind of exploring it. And whenever I'm writing about that, think about what my favorite tools were when I was growing up, and, my attachment to them, and how eventually, you kind of grow out of them. You don't need them as much, because you realize that you are the magic, you are the tool, and you are what creates that.
Absolutely. So what questions do you have for
so I'll kind of piggyback on what you were asking me a little bit too. So with your brand new book, the Guide of Spirits, what was your favorite part of writing this book? And as an additional question to that was, how was the writing process for this book different than your previous ones?
Let's start off with easy questions. Okay, so my favorite part of the book, I have to say, it's the part about helping the spirits actually transition. And every chapter, like the first chapter is like, oh, what's a psychopomp? The second one is is like getting spiritual teachers and the afterlife and all those things. But I really like the idea of really sitting with the spirits, and hearing their stories, because a lot of people think that a psychopomp, especially a human psychopomp, is like, I'm taking you to the afterlife, get out of the house. And it isn't like that at all. It's a very kind thing. It's a very healing thing. And it's about hearing their stories. Like, why are you here? Why are you haunting this house? Why why can't you move on? It isn't a judgmental thing. It's a share your stories so that I can help you. Share your stories so we can begin the process of you letting go and moving on. And I love that. And I've never seen it in a book before. Um, I really like that. Um, so my process, what was my process? It was so funny because after I wrote Otherworld, so when I wrote Underworld, it was going to be a one and done.
Yeah.
And then it turned out to be 500. It turned out to be 500 pages, and the publisher was like, "No, you got to split this in two." And then I was like, "Oh, well, let's have the upper world. Let's have the other world." And then I felt like, "Hey, I'm done. It's completed." But
Yeah.
all of a sudden, I don't know why. I don't know why. Can I think all of us witches, pagans, spiritual people, shamans, you understand when I say, back in, I don't know, like October. Ooh, I just thought of something. October 2019, I heard this call about how the world needs energy healers, psychopomps for people who are having a hard time
Yeah.
transitioning to the afterlife. And so, and I do this work all the time, but I do it in such a way that's as needed. Like someone says, "Hey, I heard you work with the dead. Come help me." I'm like, "Okay." And so finally, I just had this call, this deep, meaningful call that a lot of people need this book to help. And so I did the research. I'm one of those people, I take my own experiences, but I also do added research to add on to it.
Yeah.
And
Of course.
so
That's important. I do the same thing.
absolutely. And then COVID happened, and I was probably, I want to say, halfway through the book. And so I said, screw it. I got laid off, so I'm going to write the rest of the book. And then it just dawned on me right now. Seriously, I'm getting
The chills.
goosebumps because I had this call to write the book about help the dead transition,
Yeah.
and COVID happened, and so I actually think a lot of people can use this book to help people say no. And the beautiful thing about working with the dead is you don't have to know them. It's like being a massage therapist
Yeah.
or a teacher or whatever, and the healing. You don't have to know them. It's just a call to help those who are transitioning. And you have to remember, a lot of people, if you die at a young age,
Mhm.
you feel gypped, you're pissed off about it.
Of course.
You're like, no, I don't want to leave. And this book is going to help you help those people, So, I mean,
Absolutely.
that was kind of my process. That was my goal.
And I loved how, not only this book, but your other books, they've been like they've really kind of helped open my mind to a different type of practice. I mean, we have like personal practice wise, we're very, very different, right?
Yeah,
And we can find ways that we can merge and sync together and do things. But the spirit world has never been something that I felt really drawn to. Something that just kind of was outside of my comfort zone. And even within this last year of working together and doing rituals and stuff together and things like that, it's really helped open my mind to this whole other world like that
I
was
love
on
it. Plug the
that
other
project.
book too. Let's do
It
it.
literally helped me to this other world that I just was not familiar with, and I really enjoyed that. And I think it's a good testament for anybody out there. I think when the best way to grow as a witch or a spiritual or as any person is to take yourself outside of your comfort zone and try something new. Challenge yourself, and you'll be surprised with the things that kind of fall into place for you, and how your interests go. So thank you for that. But you did mention something. You mentioned two things, and I was like, oh, I want to ask these questions. One, I know your other books, you had the upper world, underworld, outer world.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then with this one, we kind of step outside of the worlds. I mean, we're still technically dealing with spirits and stuff like that.
yeah.
But was that a conscious decision? Like, did you think about trying to incorporate the different worlds again and title wise?
No.
Was this title something that you picked, or was it something your publisher picked, or how did that all go?
So it's interesting because it's actually a really good question, because originally I was going to do a book on tarot, and I talked to people and I talked to this, talked to that. You know how it is. It's all about
Yeah,
meetings with these people, whatever, to make it happen.
absolutely.
It just, well, like I said, I felt a call, like a deep heartstring uh,
Mhm,
pulling me. And part of it is that I have 2 pages in Underworld
mhm.
about how to help the transition. It's literally 2 pages. It's very, very basic. And part of it is that over the years, I've had people like, hey, Chris, come, I have a haunting. I'm haunted. I have a house and it's haunted, blah, 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 blah. And the first thing I tell people is, okay, it's not like a pest. It's not like you have a possum in your house or something. You have a you have a
That's a good
spirit.
one.
You have a spirit who's confused, pissed off, or doesn't even know why you're in her house.
Yeah.
And and so finally, and I'm one of those people, like, I believe a good healer, a good teacher teaches you how to handle your own drama.
Yeah.
So I wrote this book so people would handle their own stuff.
I like that. I like that too. Because I've never been someone, and no at all disrespect to people that do this, but I've never been someone who does spells for people, with the exception of like friends or someone close to me that's
Right,
really
right, yeah.
issues. But I'm more interested in teaching people how to do it themselves. I think a lot of that comes from just being an only child, and being pushed by my mother to go after the things that I want. Like I didn't get a lot of help. It was, if you want this, you're on your own. Go figure out how to do it. And that's made me much stronger. And I was just having this conversation with another friend of mine, and they thought it was sad because I in my life I've had to work really really hard,
Yeah.
where they had family members give things to them, and I don't see it as a bad thing. I mean, it really has helped shift me and change me into this person who now, my first book came out in 2019, and now at the end of this year I have 5 books out, and I'm working on 2 other ones right now.
Jesus
Um,
Christ.
and I love that. And, I think too, you had mentioned COVID,
Yeah.
which I have a story and I have a question. So I'll first ask a question. Um, the question was, you had mentioned like you had kind of had that call,
Yeah.
that, people needed this resource. Do you think that that was some kind of premonition to COVID and all of the deaths that were going to start happening in the world? Or do you think that's just, complete coincidence?
Well, we don't believe in coincidence. We're magical. Um, y- you know, I actually didn't put. Here's the thing I notice about myself. I'm a Gemini, and so in certain things I'm very good at, and certain things I'm a blonde. When I mean blonde, I'm like, so my hair has a whole lot of product in it. And I'm actually, yeah, no. Um, so I don't think I saw the connection until the show. I don't think I saw the
Okay.
connection. I do
Well,
remember.
that's why I wanted to bring it up. I really felt an urge to bring that up because as soon as you hit it, like as soon as you said that, I was like, I think
Yeah,
that you are tapping into kind of feeling this this thing, you know, like it was pushing you in that way for a reason. I feel like with a lot of the books, I mean, I feel like a lot of authors in the magical community, when they get a new opportunity or there's something that they get really creative and want to do, it's the guides going through them and channeling through
Yeah,
them
yeah,
to
yeah,
tell
yeah,
the
yeah,
story.
yeah.
And that's why I think that maybe might have been that calling to you. But hopping over to the other thing that I wanted to mention or talk about was, so we have recently had a dinner and we talked a lot about how I'm writing a whole bunch of books. A lot of them happened during COVID, you know, kind of similar to you. I was finishing up school, but I also had a big breakup on your rooftop, which you know very well all about. But
I
that
was
presented a lot more,
there.
that, that presented a lot more freedom for me and a lot more free time. And, you know, all of the books were really, like these last three books were all written between November of last year and April of this year. And it was, you know, the world was shut down. It was winter. We couldn't really go out and do anything except, you know, maybe go do a drunk brunch and fall in the snow and video record it and put that on
Okay, I
Instagram.
have to say that though. So I want so I want to talk about that just for a second and interrupt you because
No, that's all good.
oh my
Interrupt away.
God, oh my God. So when was it? Like January or something? So
I think it was February-ish.
or something. And so we go out.
No, it had to have been March because where we went, yeah, it had to have been March. It was March, I think.
Oh my God, it was so funny because we decided to have a Sunday fun day brunch, whatever.
And we were the
And
only people out in the world. The only
and
people.
well, and the thing is that I do remember we went to a certain restaurant, and I'm not going to name names, but they were like, "So you, if you're having drinks, you can't take off your mask, and you have to like take a straw and sip it." And I'm one of those people. I will always respect the rules, especially during a pandemic. Blah 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 blah. I
Absolutely.
understand. However, it was so funny because we were like, we're the only people here, and I'm not even kidding. We were the only
Literally the
people there
only people.
because it was a
Only.
blizzard. It was a blizzard.
It was a blizzard. That's it too. But we
Oh my
had to
God.
get out of the house. We were stir crazy. We just had to get out.
Yeah. So all of a sudden, um, I live very close to the lake, and so it was like blizzard, Chicago, snowstorm, whatever. And we'd been drinking all day, and so
All day, all
we
damn day.
decided it would be fun. And I don't know why we thought this was a good idea. Let's in the snow walk on the beach, and it was like literally
It was
2
because
or
I
3
wanted a
feet.
picture. I wanted you to get a picture of me like in the snow with the beautiful background of everything. So I was like all ready for that. But see, I had actually never really been on the beach by your house. And
Never.
so, you know, I was like on that walk and it just the snow looks flat. So I like take a leap and fall all the way into the snow. It like eats me up like quicksand.
Right, and
And then
then
I
you get
just
snow angels.
and then I was rolling around doing snow angels and making weird noises. And I was just like, I remember I was like, fuck everyone and take me to Narnia. Rah!
Oh my God.
And then we went and watched movies on your couch. That was a really fun time. Like one of the best.
But anyway,
Just because it was so silly and just so fun.
that was fun. What were we talking about?
Oh, we were talking. Well, okay. So I was talking about, you know, a lot of the last three books that I've done were written during COVID. And to be honest, you know, my third book was not going to be my third book. I started working on another one that I can't really talk about yet, and I I wasn't feeling it. I didn't feel like the world was ready for that. And that's when I was just like self-care
Yes.
is needed in the world right now. So I got this idea to do a self-care book and I
Yes.
wrote my publisher and then that manifested. And then I also suggested a love spells because I just got out of a really toxic relationship and I was looking to heal my heart in the process and wrote that book. And then, you know, the moon book came like right at the same time. And now I have another one as I'm finishing up there. It's just a lot. But we were kind of talking about just, I know you have a very, like the specific idea that I should slow down a little bit and all of that, and I'm not.
Only because you're writing like 5 books a year. So
I am. But
I'll do
so
one.
a big question that I have for you, and then I'll follow after you. Is just kind of like, what is your motivation as an author? Like, and because recently I've had a couple of people starting to come to me, and a lot within the last week, who are, I'm an aspiring author. How do I write? Like, what's the process? How do I pick a publisher? All these different things.
Yeah.
And I told them, it really depends on what your motivation is, because there's so many different avenues you can go, and there's no wrong way. But it really depends on what you're motivated by. So what's your motivation for being an author and putting these books out?
So my motivation, and it used to be in my bio, but I changed it. I want to heal people. I want people to find a connection to the three worlds, the universe, because I truly believe that if you're connected to the underworld, the other world, the upper world, and what have you, then you find healing. And I want us to heal. I want to heal. I want to help people heal. I mean, I'm a massage therapist. I'm an energy healer. I'm a priest. My whole being is to help people not become better per se, but to find balance, to find healing. My secondary motivation, I have two motivations.
I have like 4 or 5, so you're good, girl. Keep on going.
My secondary motivation is, to be honest, I am a witch from the 90s. I just saw a Facebook post.
Okay, crafts. Okay, charmed.
Right? I'm not even gonna lie. I'm not even gonna lie. But back, to be honest, all the way until like the mid 2000s, it was just basic stuff, and it wasn't deep. And a lot of, some of the authors, I'm going to say there were very good authors, and some authors who just left me saying, I want more. I want more. Teach me more. And so instead of griping about it, I decided to do something about it. I decided to write about heavy things. I wanted to write about death. And I will say, I was one of the first people, if not the first person, to write exclusively about the underworld from a modern pagan perspective, because you had like archaeologists like say, oh, here's what Hades is, or here's what the Egyptian underworld is, but they never said, okay, great, let's go there and explore it. So I did that, and so that was my motivation. And plus, the other thing, I guess I had 3. I come from a very traditional witchcraft background, and so we take these very heavy cerebral things and make them accessible. Like, for example, if we don't do the lesser banishing ritual of the Pinnacle, we call the angels, we call the spirits, we call this God and that God, and we do the exact same thing. And I wanted to share that. But just to be clear, I'm a Kabbalist at heart. I love ceremonial magic, but I also like the nuances. I like different perspectives. So, so that's my motivation. What's your motivation?
Oh, right.
What's your deep, dark secret?
No, my very, very first motivation is that it's an outlet for creativity. So I've always been an artist. I mean, years ago, a lot of people don't really kind of know this about me, but I used to do a lot of painting, a lot of drawing, was very skilled in school. And, art was always going to be my passion. But at the same time, I really liked writing. And when I started practicing witchcraft, I mean, I was around 11 years old. I mean, I was seeing all the same things you were at the end of the 90s, like Buffy, Charmed, The Craft, all of that stuff. So I was mesmerized by it. And, I was in high school at the time, or junior high at the time, and just trying to fit in and find my own personal empowerment. And, and so as I grew as this, and developed into like art, I started to do writing, and falling in love with my favorite witch authors at the time. I was like, I always want to write a book on witchcraft, because I just think it would be fun, and I've always just wanted to do it. And I want to be able to share something that maybe I know that's different. So when I first started writing for Witch Way magazine and people started coming to me more and more about the article that I wrote about Lilith, I was like, well, I'm going to write the book on Lilith that I always wanted to, that has never been out there. And it allowed so much creativity. And I think one of the reasons why I continue to take on so many books is because in my day job, so a lot of people probably don't know this either. So, I have a very high stress day job working for law firms, and like this just like writing presents a new creative outlet for me that I think I would kind of swallow up and die if I didn't have it anymore. So my first motivation is that it allows me to be creative and it brings joy to my life. Like writing is hard, like anything, but I thoroughly enjoy the process of writing and putting out a book. It's really, really exciting to me. My secondary motivation would be, again, to kind of prove something, I think, to the older child that I used to be, that was sad and hated himself and had no friends and all that stuff. Like I want to be the inspiration to my old self. So that's kind of a in the back of my brain thing as well. And then I would say the other motivation is just, the people that continue to write me and send me messages in the DMs or leave, comments and reviews and stuff, that the book helped them, it changed them in some kind of way. And I remember saying early on, when I was first putting out the first book, I had to think about it. Like, what is it that I really want to do here? Do I want to be this big famous witch, which in all reality is like being a famous janitor because the majority of the world doesn't care.
Okay, I'm sorry. I got to go back on that one.
I'm not the first person who said that. But
say that again. Hold on. Say that whole. Say that
it's
again.
True.
Say it again.
But it's, I didn't come into this for fame, fortune, for to be popular or anything like that. I came in because I was like, if my book changes one person's life, I'm satisfied and I've done my job. I've done my act of service and I've passed on information to people. So that's one of the other ones. And then to be completely honest, writing at this point has also become a way of living. Like it is a means to add extra income into my life. So I am also financially driven to keep writing more books because it does help me. And I'm not going to lie about that. So those are my motivations.
Oh my God, that's so funny. I'm still on that one. So I have a question though.
Sure.
What do you think that our community needs now? What do you think they need, like magically, spiritually? What do you think it needs?
It needs TikTok to go the fuck away. Listen, I'm probably going to give answers that is going to piss people off or maybe think is just very different than like how I would normally react to things, because I definitely, have been told that I bring an element of fun to witchcraft, but there are way too many influencers trying to be witches these days. And I'm not a gatekeeper and I really am not into that, but there is just so much mass misinformation being presented to so many people. And I think that what we need as a community at this point is to reel that shit in and actually start providing authenticity, because we're lacking it severely. When we have people who are writing books, major books, having thousands of followers and people that love them, but really what they are just individuals who are interested in shock value, the shock value approach of witchcraft. That's my take, and I'll just leave it at that because I have nothing else nice to say.
Well, I tried to look at TikTok, and I have to say, I don't like anything witchcraft or pagan or spiritual on TikTok because it isn't. It's like,
well, just think about it. I mean, if you're really doing a ritual or a spell, and I've talked about this in, I think, all, like, especially the last 3 books, especially my beginner one, like just the ideology of becoming a public witch, if you're going to come out of the broom closet, what that means, but also how, like, your responsibility to being online, not just to yourself and your magic, but to the community as a whole. Because if you're really sitting here and videotaping the spell that you're doing, are you really putting the energy needed into the spell or the ritual, or are you spending more time trying to figure out the lighting, the camera angle, all of the different things? Like, are your spells working? Are they actually like benefiting to you? And then at the same time, like, what does that show to everybody else? I don't know. I know I'm kind of getting on like that high horse of grandpa-ness, or like, the angry mom, but it just seems to be so over the top at this point. And, I don't know.
I think you bring up some good points. One of the things, and I kind of want to get back to the books here in a second, but I'm actually, I've had shows about gatekeeping. I don't like gatekeeping. I think it's shit. And to be honest, if you know anything about Google, you can figure it out how to find secrets and stuff like that.
Honestly, it's the Oracle of Google, and I feel like so many people don't know how to use the Oracle of Google. They're experts in tarot and everything else, but they don't know the Oracle of Google, and it's your most beneficial divination tool of all. I mean, come on.
I know. So where do you see yourself in the future? Or I should say in the next, like, what's your 5-year plan?
In the next life?
No. What's your?
I don't know. Like the next life.
Where do you see yourself magically, spiritually?
Wait, what?
What do you see yourself like spiritually, magically? Like, do you have a goal?
I mean, I have a lot of different goals. I think one of the big ones at this point would be to transition into finding a more mainstream like magazine to be a part of. Like if I was to write an article on glamour magic, once a month for Vogue, and not Vogue's maybe too out there, but Nylon or different things like that, or be an astrologist to like one of those. I definitely see myself going into that way at some point. So that's definitely a goal. If I could ever do that. I think within 10 years, it's very likely that I'll have about 20 books out in print, but so that's another kind of goal. As far as a spiritual place, there's a big part of me that would like to kind of start my own glamour, like glam witch, great Lilithian arcane mysteries kind of tradition, and kind of start my own coven and start working on kind of group activities. And if and when that starts to manifest, I think that would be really, really wonderful. And I think that's it as far as like hardcore goals. I'm a little all over the place with everything else, but I basically will wait for something to come to me, and when it comes to me, I'm like, okay, great, I'm gonna run with it. But I would love to see those things happen.
Well, that's awesome.
How about you?
I'm the opposite. I am
You're done. You're worn out. You out there with a big man job and responsibilities.
Well, no. Well, I mean, my sun's sign is a Gemini, but as you know, my moon sign is Aries, and so I'm
like my sun's sign.
Exactly. I think that's why we get along, because yes. I like bulldoze through obstacles all the time, and I don't like. If you want me to do something, tell me don't do something, and I'll do it. So you need to have that reverse psychology with me.
Oh, exactly. I'm the exact same way. So that has to be the Aries.
Well, I mean, where do I see myself? I mean, I'm in a school for spiritual care in a clinical settings, so I definitely see myself doing that. I have some ideas for some books, but I have to wait till school is over, because as you know, with school, it takes up a whole lot of time and things like that. And
a whole lot of money, which is a whole other reason why I plan to write like 20 more books, because I gotta pay school, and that shit ain't cheap.
I will say it's interesting, because I will say this is one of the few times in my entire life that I'm very happy with things. Like I'm very happy. And I'm in a great place, and so I don't have to change anything. I don't have to go anywhere. However, you know how the universe is. The universe goes, yeah, you're too comfortable. Let's change that.
We're going to shake it up a little bit.
Right, exactly. Okay, so we got about 5 or 6 minutes before we have to go. So what do you want people to know about your book? Like, if
Oh,
you can
well, I
say,
had one more question for you. I'll try to be quick. Another thing I wanted to ask was like, during the writing process, do you do anything magical? Like, do you put yourself in a circle? Do you do like, different techniques if you have writer's block? Or do you just sit and write? Like, are you someone that writes from the beginning to the end? Are you all over the place? How about that? Just, we'll try to wrap that up and be quick, and then I'll tell you about that, and you tell me about your book, and we'll be done.
I'm a nerd. So I don't do any magic to prepare for the book or during the book. I just take what I know and I write and I research and I write some more. What was the other part of the question?
Well, it was that, and then like, what is your like writing process? Like, do you,
Oh, yeah,
do you write from beginning to end, or do you go in different like all
I
over the
go
place?
in different chapters because I'm one of those
Same.
I'm impatient and I get excited.
Yep. And then I'll be like, I'm not interested in writing about this today, but I am feeling called to write about that, so I'm going to go there. Yeah.
That's exactly what I do because
And it's weird
sometimes
because there's a few people who I know who they're like, no, I write from beginning to end, and I'm just like, oh my God, I don't understand
can't.
how you do that.
I'm
Oh, I
too
can't.
impatient. I can't.
But one thing, I mean, definitely with the Glam Witch, because that was really heavily based in my worship and devotion to Lilith. I definitely did a lot more rituals for guidance and direction when I was writing that book. But the rest of them, the main underlying magical thing that I think I do is, the majority of these books are written like late ass at night, at like midnight to like 3 a.m. And so I will light like a white candle and I'll put a little like lemon oil on it just to kind of bring energy and like reflect that energy into the space. And then like if I'm writing on a Sunday or on the weekend, I'll switch it up and put like more vanilla oil in for that creativity. But it just kind of depends on just my energy level. But because I'm an Aries and I love playing with fire, I always try to have candles or incense or something burning to kind of get me into that mood and that element to write. And then my computer is right in front of a window in my apartment that faces south. So I like to watch the moon phases, and like when you have this huge giant full moon hanging right in front of you while you're writing, I found it really super inspiring. So
Oh my God, I feel like such a slacker because I'm one of those people. I write when I have an hour. I'm at
yeah.
I bring my computer wherever I go, so I write whenever I have a minute.
And I mean, a lot of my books have been written at coffee shops and bars too. Like I'm not opposed to
I
going
can
out for the
never
night.
write at a bar. I don't know how you do it. I can never.
I like it for some reason. The noise of a bar to me is not bothersome, but like the noise of my cat playing in the apartment is bothering.
See, I'm the
So
opposite. I'm like, oh, the kitty's playing. That's soothing.
I don't know.
And the
It's
thing is,
weird.
I'm not a homebody at all. Like I go out, like I have fun. Like I've never been the guy who sets up house with a guy. I'm not. I mean, granted, during COVID, then we had to get really comfortable with each other.
Yes, you did, girl. Yes, you did. Okay,
so we
so
got about 2 minutes.
Okay, so
What's
and
the last thing? What's your last thing?
my last thing, I don't know. I hope you guys have enjoyed our crazy chat. Maybe we'll do another one sometime, because we do live kind of down the street from each other. So, but it was nice to have like real talk, like not just the stuffy. How did you get started? Where is this and what's your website and all that kind of stuff. So I really enjoyed this. But
This is fun.
yeah, my new book, all my books, they're online. They're on Amazon. You can connect to me on my website, www.theglamwitch.com. It goes to all of my profiles. There's a lot of scammers out right now that are doing impersonation profiles and scamming people out of things. So all of my legitimate social medias are linked from my website. So if in doubt, start there and it'll take you to where you need to be.
Awesome. And don't forget my book, the paperback book is out October 1st.
I thought it was already out. I thought it came out like just this week with mine. Oops.
Well, that was the Kindle, because you know how the Kindle
Yeah,
it comes out
comes
first,
early.
then the paperback comes out later. But buy this book, buy this book. I'm not even like kind of coy
Buy
about it.
both
Like,
of our
just do
books. They
it.
help us go to school. They help pay our bills.
Right. Help me pay the bills. Exactly.
We're
All right.
poor.
Well, thank you so much. It's so good to see you.
You as well. I'll see you on Saturday, my love.
I'll see you on Saturday. All right. We'll
I'm
see you
sure people will
soon.
see
I
pictures. So
appreciate you.
I love
Love
and appreciate
you.
you. Have a good night, everybody.
Bye.